Okay. Let's see. Okay, I just started recording. I'll record this one, even though it looks like there might not be anyone coming to second period today, which is technically okay. I think there was a lot of second period people in fifth period stream yesterday. So yeah, if you don't have any other classes streaming at 12 o'clock or technically at 7:40, like if your first period doesn't stream or fifth, then you can come to either of those. But I'll just go ahead and pretend that I am solo, though I guess people could show up. But let's go through these sentences. The quiz will be tomorrow. Um, in the morning, I will, like around 8 a.m., I'll send out the assignment and it'll include a link to a Google form. And that'll be a translation quiz on two of these sentences. So I haven't done translation quizzes on Google Forms, but I think it'll be fine. And I'll tell you exactly what to expect as we go through these sentences. So make sure you're taking notes. Like watch this video before taking that quiz, because the quiz would be really hard if you didn't check the homework and watch this video, and then take your quiz, and then no streaming on Friday. So it's just the quiz on Friday. And when you're done with that, you're done with Latin for the week, and you can get that much closer to starting your wonderful 3-day weekend. I found out I'm a hall monitor for the SAT next Tuesday. So I guess I'll make a video on Monday or Tuesday or something, but there won't be a stream. So next week will be just like this week in that I'm only streaming Wednesday and Thursday. So it's not bad. All right, quad magister sinex. Did I click on the wrong one? Oh well. Yeah, I hope I didn't click on the wrong, because I have like three different. No, this is one. Yeah, okay. All right. So this is kind of they do this on purpose. They start the sentence off with quad, and in the context of this chapter, you would rightfully probably figure, oh, that's the accusative or nominative neuter version of qui quad, meaning it's going to be like which or that. Now, it's not typical to start a sentence with a relative clause. In fact, I guess you couldn't really, like, I don't think that would ever really happen. Maybe if someone's like talking uh, and you're like writing out their dialogue, that would happen. But it's rare. So I guess that's supposed to be a tip off that maybe this isn't a relative clause. Because in fact, here it's just because, okay? Way back in like chapter 7 or 8 or something, we found out that quad could be this conjunction that means because.
Good.
And so, yeah, that's what it is here. So because the old teacher Fuit might have thrown some people off, but I hope it doesn't in the future, because that is just the perfect tense version of sum essa. Sum essa fui futorum, meaning to be. So it's basically the same as erat. Like fuit, it can be was. It could technically be has been, but was is fine. So that means it's basically the same as erat, the imperfect version of est. But this is the perfect version of est. So anyway, because the old teacher was blind, that is our main clause that we're starting off with. Or at least I don't know if it's even the main clause, but it's just it's part of a main clause. And then it looks like we have more main clause after that. If you keep going, dona dulcia quae, okay, quae means the beginning of a relative clause. Discipuli miserant, all right, that was the relative clause. Non bene videri patra. So the sentence is almost like three separate parts. We have this initial part where it's like because the old teacher was blind, and then we have the main clause, the rest of the main clause, which I suppose would just be dona dulcia non bene videri patra. And then we have the relative clause, which hopefully you'll understand why I can underline that and separate it out from the main clause. It starts with qui quad and it ends with a verb. All right. So let's finish the main clause and then come back to the relative clause, because I don't know what to do with sweet gifts here. Because the old teacher was blind, something about sweet gifts. But what's the rest of the main clause? Sweet gifts non bene videri paterat. Paterat is from say patui, which means to be able to, right? And that is the imperfect version. So potest just means he or she can. Paterat means could. So because the old teacher was or has been blind, I guess he could not, right? Non bene. Because it can't be the sweet gifts. The subject must still be the old teacher. Sweet gifts is actually neuter accusative or nominative plural or accusative plural. But either way, even if it was nominative plural, it wouldn't agree with the third singular verb. So the old man is still the subject. So because the old teacher was blind, he could not see well, right? Paterat non bene videre, could not videre bene, see well. Maybe the sweet gifts, those are the things he can't see well, meaning they're the direct object. So that's actually what it is. But yeah, that's very roundabout. That's pretty tricky. And then from there, we do the relative clause. He couldn't see the sweet gifts, which, so the relative clause is about the sweet gifts, which the students had sent. Discipuli miserant. Miserant from mito mitra, misi misum, to send. And here it is pluperfect. The ERA should be a big tip off. It's actually a different ERA. Sorry. This is paterat is imperfect. Miserant is pluperfect. Paterat's pluperfect would be like patuerat because it gets a U weirdly in its perfect stem right there. But anyway, because the old teacher was blind, he couldn't see the sweet gifts well, which the students had sent. This is the way I decided to order the sentence. I think it's the best way to do it. We are separating the relative pronoun, which is quae, from its antecedent, donadokia, with the adverb well, but that's just because I don't know where else to put well, and that's from bene. Somebody asked about that in first period. Bene as well. It's the adverb form of bonus, which means good, right? So, but yeah, I think this kind of works. Somebody's asking me if we have class. Yeah, dude. 1 second. Okay. I think he came to fifth period yesterday at 12 o'clock. Which again, that's fine. If people want to come to fifth period, it just doesn't really make a difference. All right, let's see. Okay, I won't pick this one because it's kind of hard. I won't put this one on the quiz tomorrow. It's just kind of involved. It's weird that we like have this like 2-part main clause. Yeah, it's just kind of a difficult one. Please tell me if anybody has questions. I see there's at least a couple of y'all in there. Maybe David will try to join. So levis est labor quem bene toleramus. This one is straightforward unless you try to overcomplicate it, which I could honestly picture people doing. But if you just kind of move left to right, you really can't go wrong here. It comes down to vocab. So this is just going to be light is the labor. And that's all for that. That's a 3-word main clause. And then light is the labor, which won't be who, because labor is not a person. Which, something well, we have bene again. Toleramos, M-U-S, first person plural, we, which we tolerate well. Okay, that's the whole sentence. 3-word main clause, 3-word relative clause. Quem is the accusative direct object there of its relative clause. Since the subject is inside of the verb, it's we. Now, if I put this on, this is the important part of the recording today. The test tomorrow, it's going to be 2 of these sentences. I already ruled out the first one. I could put this one. I haven't decided. I'm going to keep 3 of them on the table, but I'll only pick 2. If I pick this one, the only question I would ask is, what is the case of the relative pronoun? You would tell me it's accusative. That em should look pretty accusative-y to you. It's like a third declension ending, and now it's also the masculine accusative for qui quod quod and the accusative. And then I will, and this is the tricky thing, I'll ask you the antecedent of quem. Don't get thrown off on this jargony word. I know it sounds like one of those boring, complicated words. It just means the word that comes before the relative clause, the relative pronoun, that the relative pronoun is referring to. So usually they're right next to each other in both the Latin and the English. So it was a little weird in this sentence. I talked about, I put well kind of between the which and the gifts, which the which is referring to. But usually they're right next to each other. And so in the past, and last week, since the 9th graders just did this chapter last week, they usually want to look for a word in the relative clause for the antecedent. But that's the whole thing. The antecedent is not going to be in the relative clause. It's going to be in the main clause. It's the word that the relative pronoun is referring back to. Light is the labor. What labor? Oh, you know, the labor which we tolerate well, which is connecting this relative clause to the main clause. So anyway, you would tell me labor. And labor is labor, whether it's English or Latin, but you could write the English or Latin version of any of these sentences. It doesn't matter if you give me the Latin or the English version. you got to give me the right, or you got to give me one of them. Okay, so you'd say labor is the antecedent, okay? And those would be the two questions. Case of quem, it's accusative. Antecedent, it's labor. All right, number 3. Quivim coque laudaverunt cuius filius fortis patriam cum virtuta servaverat. So I almost take it that like when I don't post in the posts to remind people, it's almost like less people show up. Okay, so some latecomers. It is fine. It doesn't really matter. But I did already go over one of the sentences that could be on the quiz. So you might want to honestly find this YouTube video when I'm done uploading it and watch the first part of it if you are a latecomer. And then again, I've been telling people all morning, it's not a big, if you want to come to the 12 o'clock 5th period, that's fine, actually. It is 7th graders, but it's not really a big deal. And also stay tuned because next week I won't stream on Tuesday. I have to I have to hall monitor a PSAT. So I'll maybe like make a short video, but it won't be a stream on Tuesday. Quivim, okay, it's my first noun, and it means citizen, but I'm not going to start my translation off with that because I see that ending, and I'm like, that is an accusative ending. That is classic third declension accusative. So if anything, this guy might be a direct object, and I don't want to start my translation with that. I want to find my subject. See, coque, that's this new adverb that means like also, and laudaverunt. And then I see the rest of the sentence follows this cuius, this genitive form of qui quod. And so that makes me think, oh, okay, so we have a small main clause here, and then a big relative clause starting with cuius. So it's kind of interesting. But I want to do my main clause first for sure. And I still don't have a subject. Can't be citizen. Some subject is going to verb the citizen. But if I look at the end of my verb here, I see the NT, and I know that my subject can just be they. It's a drop subject. And not only is it the verb third plural, but it's actually perfect tense. E-R-U-N-T, right? Classic perfect tense. So it's like they praised or have praised the citizen, or they also praised the citizen. All right, pretty super straightforward main clause. And everything that follows will be relative clause. So cuius is not just going to be who or anything like that. I really want y'all to know that cuius is the genitive qui quod and cui is the dative one. So the other ones start with QU, but those start with C, and so they kind of stick out, and they translate somewhat uniquely. Cuius, or its plural forms quorum and quorum, should be translated as whose, if they're referring to a person, and cui / quibus, if it's a dative quibus, should be not just whom, but to whom. All right. So they also praise the citizen whose strong son, filius fortis, skip patriam, that looks like a direct object, with virtue, had protected the fatherland. There we go. So way more going on in the relative clause here than the main clause. But starting it off with whose helps us get the thing going. And we see filius fortis is the subject of the relative clause, the brave son. He verbs the patriam, direct object, the country he had protected. So this is our second pluperfect verb for the day. Servo, servare, servavi. The ERA makes it pluperfect. And then he did it with virtue. So virtuta is an ablative object of cum. If I put this on the quiz tomorrow, I will ask about the case of cuius. You will tell me it is genitive. That's why it's translated as whose. And I would ask the antecedent of cuius as well. And you would tell me quivim. I could have swore I had a slide that illustrated that point. Real quick, let me grab these. So yeah, this was at least one of the sentences I picked for the 9th graders last week. And so many of them, when I asked the antecedent of cuius, they wanted to say like filius or something like that, which I get because that's right next to cuius. But again, it needs to be outside of the relative clause. It's the citizen in the main clause. They praise the citizen direct object whose blah, 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 blah. And then the relative clause starts. So citizen is the thing that is connected to the relative pronoun. Again, if I pick this one, you'll translate it, and then you'll tell me cuius is genitive, and its antecedent is quivim. I want to take those notes. If you don't know how my class works by now, obviously you take notes on that homework, study that before the quiz, and you're good to go. And then also just do your homework in the first place. All right, second and last one, Tyrannus duas urbes quito delevit. That's from deleo delera. to destroy. It is perfect tense because it's coming from the third principal part. It's got the V. So this one's super straightforward. What's my subject? The tyrant. The tyrant destroyed duos urbes Quito, 2 cities quickly. And then I see quas. So I'm like, okay, so maybe the second part of this is a relative clause. We keep seeing that structure. But it's not just starting with quas, it's actually starting with N, which is kind of weird. So I mentioned relative clauses sometimes start with prepositions that the qui qua quod is the object of. So the tyrant destroyed 2 cities quickly, into which, right? Because when N takes an accusative, it's into which miserable citizens had fled. Oh, look, a third pluperfect verb. That's crazy. From fugio, fugere, to flee. And yeah, I'm making it orange because it's my accusative object of in. And its antecedent is the cities, right? It's not the tyrant. If it was the tyrant, we'd probably say the tyrant, who blah, 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 destroyed 2 cities. But instead we're saying this tyrant destroyed 2 cities into which, many subjects, wretched subjects had fled. So we're talking about the cities there. Any questions? If I pick this one, you will tell me quas is accusative and its antecedent is urbes. And again, you can write in that space urbes or city. And I'm just realizing, since it's Google Forms, I wonder if I'd make that multiple choice. If I made it multiple choice, it'd be easy mode. Because I'd have to say, like, is the antecedent cities, tyrant, or citizens? And some people would still get it wrong. But hopefully you would know it's cities. All right, last one, right? I believe so. Yeah, it is. And this is maybe the hardest one. This and the first one are kind of hard mode. And the first thing that's hard mode about this is these first 2 words. You look at those and you probably don't think that they go together, that this is like a noun phrase, the brave man, something about a brave or strong man. They do actually. They can both either be dative or ablative. The long O and second declension is dative or ablative singular. And as far as third declension adjectives go, which fortis is one, the long I could be ablative or dative as well. But I don't know what to do with this. Like, it's just like an ablative or dative noun phrase sitting there. I have no idea what to do with it. And then it gets even harder when I see the third word is cuius. So that's the beginning of a relative clause. And that will go all the way until the verb, which I'm seeing as amos, amo amare, to love. So my main clause is vira forti, strong man, his own life, without fear, sine timora, he or she committed. Okay, so I need to put that together. So this is third singular, like I said. I'm not seeing any nominative singular, so I think I need to use he or she. So he or she entrusted or committed. Either way, why is it past tense? Because it's perfect. All right, it's coming from comisi. The 2 T's go away when it is in the perfect system, and this is just perfect, not like plu, perfect or anything. That'd be comis erat. So he or she entrusted maybe their own life, that's their direct object, without fear. And then, oh, okay, so this must be dative, because we could say they entrusted their own life without fear to the strong or brave man, right? So my English word order does not look anything like the Latin word order, and I still have a relative clause to do. But if we just like focus on the endings of our nouns and verbs, we can put it all together. Vitam suum was direct object, right? He or she verbed, entrusted, direct object, his own direct object, without an object of a preposition, to an indirect object. And then an indirect object whose, it's cuius once again, genitive, dear daughter, charis means dear, amos is second person. So whose dear daughter you love. You is the subject of the relative clause since the verb is second person. And if I pick this one, which I guess I won't. I don't think I'll pick this one. So I've narrowed it down to not the first or the last one, but the middle 3. I'll pick 2 of those. Remember, I'm just asking the case of the qui qua quod and its antecedent. To run back through that, that is quas there is accusative, and its antecedent is cities. Cuius is genitive, and its antecedent is civem/citizen. And quim is accusative, its antecedent is labor, laboratory. All right, guys, that is about it. Don't be thrown off if I put a third sentence that you haven't seen before. Just do your best on it, and please spend at least a few minutes on it. I probably won't even grade it. I think I want to throw in a spot translation onto this quiz just to get a sense of where you guys are at with translating something you're saying for the first time. So please do try your best, but I'm not going to it's either going to be completion, like you just get points for doing it, or yeah. Any questions, guys? I won't hold it against you is what I meant. All right, cool. Maybe I'll throw you guys some bonus. People, if they ask, no stream tomorrow. There is no stream tomorrow. So take your quiz in the morning and you're done with Latin. I hope you all enjoy your 3-day weekend. I will not stream on Tuesday when we come back, but I'll have some kind of communication on Teams, maybe a video. And then, yeah, I'll see you guys on Wednesday of next week. So good luck with the rest of your e-learning today, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.